spawning down in the bottom left-hand position as the green Zerg player. It is none other than AsTeR. And his opponent up in the top right, the blue Terran. It's lethal. A little bit of ZVT going to be coming down on the cards today. I hope you're all looking forward to it. Now, ZVT, pretty well worked out matchup early on, especially from the Zerg point of view. Generally speaking, we'll be seeing a 15 hatch, as I go the wrong way, a 15 hatch, followed up by 16 pull. That's the most normal opening that you tend to get down. Gas usually follows that up just to get speed down, and really it's quite reactive from there. Generally mid-game, Zergling, Banelings, and Mutalisks are the target. That allows you to deal with most things. Meanwhile though, over on Lethal's side, he's got a few more options in the early game. He could chuck down a command center, nice and quick. He could go for just say a Reaper expand. He could just get a barracks into a command center. All good options. Alternatively, more on the aggressive side, we could see something like a Cloak Banshee opening. Maybe some Hellions into Banshee. All possibilities, all good things that could be happening. So, got to keep an eye out. It looks like Lethal could very well be going for a CC first though. But look at this from AsTeR. A very early scout coming down from him. Just going to be getting a little peek saying, okay, what's here? What's coming down? No barracks. It must be a CC. And know where this drone is going. Just happily trying to block off any CC that could be coming down. And this is just irritating. It delays it a little bit. And of course, this sort of opening, well, it's going to be good fun times. If you delay it, clearly they're going to get a bit of a bumpy build order. And it's only a couple of seconds here and there, but it's worthwhile. It doesn't really cost AsTeR anything. Now, if we take a look down here, he's got his hatchery coming down. We should be seeing a spawning pool very shortly. It's at 16 supplies, so there we go. That's on its way down. Note the Overlord position as well. Just coming up here, gonna take a little peekity peek to see on timings. Doesn't need to do too much though, because knows the command center is already on its way. Even though it hasn't been seen, just the timing that the SCVs were pulled, it's very clear to AsTeR that that was the opening that we were going to be seeing here. So that's all fine. With the gas following it up, we're probably going to see a factory make its way over soon. Interesting position with this Overlord, simply because the second Overlord is also coming up to the north, rather than coming down to the south position where it could sacrifice in to get some scouting information. What that means is for AsTeR, it could be a little bit difficult in the mid-game in order to scout down the main base to get an idea about tech, timings, and those sort of things, which could be a little bit problematic, but for the moment at least, it's not going to matter too much. Over, meanwhile, on AsTER's side, he's getting the gas, working up to about that 50 gas mark, so halfway to getting Zergling speed. He'll probably keep all three drones in gas, unless of course he decides to pull them just to get out a much faster third hatchery. Note also Lethal chucking down a bunker here. This is a really smart move. What this bunker allows is just a bit more of a defensive spot. It means any Zerglings that try to run by will get taken out, and it's just a safer way of playing. Lethal doesn't have to worry too much about getting this down. He's making it into an orbital command. The bunker will be done well in time. A couple of Marines will already be populating it, and things should be fairly safe. Now, as we can see, over at AsTER's side, he's just droning up heavily. He doesn't really need to get any lings out. He hasn't actually got any yet at all, and that's because of the opening he's seen. He knew it was a CC first, so he doesn't need any Zerglings. Any would have just been pretty much useless because things like this bunker would be up. They couldn't get over there to pressure. There wasn't going to be any pressure coming, so he's just happily getting as many drones as possible. Note he's still mining gas with 3 drones in there and has been the entire time, as we can see from the 100 gas count there. So that's going to allow Banelings to come up quite quickly. If that's what he wants, he could also get upgrades going relatively soon. All these options, really nice and simple. So just keeping a good eye. Factory also coming down, reactor there. So Hellion's going to be following up this command center opening just as expected. Nothing too much to worry about, at least at the moment for AsTeR. But as the game goes on, he does need to start thinking, how am I going to defend against potentially Hellions? And the answer is with roaches. May only get, say, 4 or 5 of those out just in order to hold off the aggression. And that's really the most lava effective way of defending this. It's not necessarily the most resource effective way, but just using say 3, maybe 4 lava to hold it off means you can maximize the number of drones you can get and pretty much guarantee you're not going to take damage from it. Third Overlord making its way down to the south position here, just ready to go in and scout. The follow-up to this is going to be interesting, but we are going to be getting Blue Flame actually come down now. And the reason I suspect it will be Blue Flame is because the Tech Lab's coming. We should see the switch at the factory. And yeah, the Hellion's just going to probably go for a little bit of map control. It could also just be for a pure mech build. Got to keep a small eye on it for the moment, but where the blue flame comes down, that's going to be the big decision. 8 roaches are on their way, so this is more than a little poke. With the baning nest too, this could be an attempt at a bust. And well, a tank coming out, it's not going to be for blue flame, it's just going to be for tanks making their way over. And, well, they probably won't even move out, they'll probably just be defensive for the time being. See the roaches, but only see a couple. 20 lings, this is very aggressive from AsTeR at the moment. If these Hellions are able to get a glimpse at it, it's going to be great news for him, just to know what's coming. How many has he actually seen? Well, for the moment he moves out, and this is going to be a bit problematic, because that means banelings are going to be morphing in. Lethal going the wrong way round, so he's going to scan this very late. Sees only a couple of roaches, still has no idea about the lings. Now sees a couple of lings running through, others coming for the trap. A tank sieges up on the high ground there. That's only the first tank. The second one is still being made, but look at this, 13 banelings on their way through. This wall off suddenly looking very vulnerable. These tanks, or the tank at the moment, has to deal such a huge amount of damage if it's going to be able to stop this. Otherwise, it's just Hellions and that bunker with 2 Marines in it. Going to be problematic. Come for the roaches first. The Zerglings taking up the first hit of damage. The bunker does go down. The Banelings waddling straight towards that SCV line. This could be dangerous. Zergling coming in as well. Where are the Banelings going to detonate? Well, they're chasing down SCVs. They want to get the guaranteed damage. The roaches trying to stay out the way. Starting to get some big hits down. So many SCVs getting taken out. And AsTeR just damaging everything for the moment. He's killed off 25 workers already. He's ahead by 15, and he's still in the natural base, putting on the pressure. The roaches trying to hug up here towards the tank, but of course, with the second tank on the high ground, does get some nice damage off, and the push has been shut down for the time being. There's also the third hatch, though, coming down behind this, as well as the double evolution chamber. This is AsTeR getting ready to defend the counter push should it come with Hellions. He's going to be able to hold this area quite nicely. He's got the lair on its way. He's going to start on upgrades, and he's macroing heavily behind. His drone count is nearly double that of his opponent, but remember, Lethal does have mules. Plus, this third CC is on its way out, nearly done. Pretty much the same timing of the third hatchery, so it's a very economical play by both now, and Lethal is by no means out of the game as of yet. Interestingly, we've got +1 missile attack and carapace coming down. That means that we're going to be getting a lot more Roach heavy focus, maybe Roach Hydra, and that's in direct response to seeing the tanks. It's obvious now to AsTeR that it's going to be a mech play, so Zergling Baneling wouldn't be the optimal composition in order to defend or play against that, so it's all good. Hellions do take a little peek, know that there's a hatchery there, but since there aren't any drones as of yet, isn't going to be able to do any damage to them. But as the drones pop out, luckily only one, going to take a bit of damage. The Roach is trying to chase those Hellions back and will force a retreat for the moment, but all in all, the tank count's starting to get a little bit high. Only 3 out on the field at the moment, but 2 in production at a time, plus the double armory and the engineering bay. We're going to see upgrades go pretty damn fast. Supply depot wall off getting completed here, looking nice. The Hellions still attempting just to be a little bit aggressive, maybe deny the creep spread for a while, but this is still really nicely done by both Lethal and AsTeR. But Lethal is probably looking to try and find the opportunity to level out this game a bit more. He's lost 25 workers, and that's really not what he would have wanted early. He doesn't feel safe enough to move this third orbital command down, but the third mule is going to be really beneficial in itself. But still, AsTeR mining a significant amount more in terms of resources, plus he's now got this 5th and 6th Vespian Geyser. You can't underestimate how important they'll be. That's allowing a lot of Mutalisks to come out, because currently the anti-air really lacking for Lethal. He's extremely vulnerable to Mutalisks. He does have a Thor on its way, but for the moment, no missile turrets, and it's only going to be a couple of Thors, so he's got to make sure that they're positioned nicely to deal with any Mutas that come in. He's also got to be very cautious about the fact that magic boxing those Mutas could completely negate the majority of the damage the Thors could do, so he's still, even though he's getting Thors out vulnerable, does have a starport on its way, but the Overseer getting a good peek at everything, sees there's no missile turrets, knows that the rocks are getting taken down, knows about the third orbital command and the double armories, everything really piecing together in terms of vision, and with 11 Mutalisks now on their way, that is going to be a big push. It's going to be tremendously powerful with harassment due to the Thors being so immobile, and unfortunately there isn't actually any scanning information to know about the Spire from Lethal. But there is a 4th hatchery coming down from AsTeR, and that's where he's going to be getting a nice amount of additional income. Specifically, the gas is what he's going to be really looking for. It's about 200 more gas per minute, which just means 2 more mutas. He's getting quite gas starved just because of the Mutalisk style play, but look at them come in now. They're looking incredibly threatening. A missile turret coming up, but it's going to be probably not down in time, definitely won't be done in time now, so it can get focused down. The SCV building it will get taken out, and so many more SCVs are taking damage now. More Madals is just sitting around, trying to keep a good eye on when the Thors come back. Needs to make sure to magic box over the Thors, and then can actually trade relatively well. The SCV is going to try and repair up the Thors, but of course, Thors up against mutas that aren't clumped won't deal significant amounts of damage, and of course a lot of SCVs will still go down, so a couple of mutas did die there. But in total, nearly another 20 more workers were killed for lethal, and he's looking to be struggling in terms of his economy. Big tank line has been left exposed. This is just free picking for Madals. The Thors a long way back. These tanks, even just taking a small amount of damage, is going to be very frustrating. 2 tanks going down in exchange for 3 mutas. Not the best trade, but a couple of SCVs will sweeten the deal there. So, altogether, AsTeR looking dominating for the moment. He's maintaining map control. He's keeping things looking very strong. But can he maintain this through? Because a mech army, as many players will know, is incredibly potent if it does get up to a sizable amount of supply. For the moment, it's not to that point. But I'm talking about the kind of 150, 170 plus mark, where suddenly it gets very scary. We do have the Madals count starting to dwindle, but there's only 2 tanks there and pure Thor production, which means the roach switch that's coming through with the 2-2 upgrades could be devastatingly effective against lethal. AsTeR with the 4th up, with these gases, with the spines, the static defense, he's looking strong. He doesn't have to fare with 2-2 mech upgrades as of yet. And with just the 3 tanks, it's going to be very hard to really defend that. The Madals trying to get a little bit of damage off here. Note the starport has landed on the reactor, but unfortunately the reactor could actually get taken down if it's not careful. The Madals are trying to prioritize it and will manage to get the snipe now fairly easily. That's just delaying a bit of time with double production. And it may only be a small delay, but small delays like that throughout the game can be very detrimental over a longer period of time. Creep spread going nicely, creep tumors getting spread out really quite well. The only thing that AsTeR could potentially look at is spreading over some other avenues rather than keeping it so clumped. But what he's attempting to do is make a bit of a creep highway to maximize the speed of these roaches, which remember do have both Tunning Claws and Burrows, so it could be a sneak attack in towards these tanks, which would be very good to see. Some Vipers coming in as well. Vipers against mech offer a lot of utility. The blinding clouds for the tanks incredibly strong. The abducts on some of the key mech units such as Thors can be very potent just to get them down in bite-sized chunks, but AsTeR may not even be waiting for that. The roaches moving forward. He may go for a good little bit of burrow play. A sensor tower is just about to complete. We'll show some of the units sitting there at the moment, but well, with a quick burrow, now doesn't know where they've all gone. That could be a problem. In comes the Madals. They're going to start picking off a tech lab on the factory. This is a really big win getting that tech lab down, because it's going to mean that there's not any more siege tank or Thor production. It's going to be very frustrating, and well, it may only be 1 tech lab, but still, it's 1 more than you really want to be losing at any point, especially to just 3 Madals. The second tech lab also taking a nice bit of damage. The Thor's getting a bit of a pathing error there. Not sure the Madals will be able to take this second tech lab down in time, considering the fact the Thors are there. But the roaches now coming around for a big push. They could really do with burrowing, but unfortunately there is a missile turret there, so detection will be granted by that. Some nice little snipe offs, but AsTeR busy securing up his 5th base now. He's expanding everywhere, but still needs to find an opportunity to go in and deal some damage. Some good blinding clouds would really negate how effective these siege tanks can be, not to mention there's only 2 there, since the rest are sitting at the natural base just trying to defend that too. AsTeR, with the Great Aspire though, is getting ready to go for the mass siege break. With the tank, with the Vipers up on the high ground, can abduct some tanks in, getting 4 of those tanks up very close. We'll snipe them out incredibly quickly. Only 2 tanks remain for the moment. There are 2 Vikings on the field which are going to start working away at the Vipers. But the Vipers and Roaches both able to retreat pretty much unharmed, getting another good cost-effective trade. And speaking of cost-effectiveness, if we take a look at the resources lost, only about 900 more lost currently. Sorry, let me correct myself. Currently only 1,100 more resources lost by AsTeR. No, sorry, 1,100 more lost by AsTeR than lethal. So that's not a considerable amount, especially when it's such a good economy, and it has been for a long time for AsTeR. The concern though is lethal is slowly getting back the worker count. He's sitting up at 73 SCVs, but unfortunately heavily oversaturated at this third. The Roaches and Vipers trying to find a good little window of opportunity. Note, any units that come popping out of these factories can get abducted down onto the low ground where the roaches could do a nice little job of taking it out. The Greater Spire about to finish up, but there's also Ravens in production. The 3-3 mech upgrades are coming through, all of which are going to be helpful should an engagement come down. The Corruptors need to try and win the fight against the Vikings, but it's going to be a tough one because they are slightly outnumbered for the moment. But Abduct coming down on the Thors, they get taken down for pretty much no losses. I think just one roach died there for 2 Thors. Very nice trade. And this is AsTeR just slowly picking away at Lethal, attempting to deal damage where possible, getting any little wins that he can, and securing more cost-effective trades. And with these trades, he's actually coming out about 500 more resources better off than his opponent, not to mention the fact that he's expanded pretty much everywhere. The tank count sitting only at 4, of which 3 of them are sitting at the natural base. The 4th, I'm not quite sure where that is hiding, but it means that this avenue of attack pretty much undefended. Thor's getting picked up very quickly. Another couple of Reducts still remain with the Vipers, and if they get the Thors, that would be devastating. The creep spread going really nicely, giving incredibly fast reinforcements time, as well as Locusts coming down here on that infestation pit, ready just to start slowly sieging away. Infestors, Broodlords, and as well as a couple of Swarm Hosts could make this very problematic to deal with, especially if there are just a couple of Corruptors kept in the mix in order to deal with any Vikings that come over, and also these Ravens. Planetary Fortress is aiding significantly in the defense of the 3rd base, keeping it up. But this is a bit of a soft contain now. If we take a look at the mining status of the bases, all 3 are still mining, but both the main and natural are starting to get pretty low. Remember, the natural base was heavily muled, so it's nearly out. The main nearly out, which is going to starve Lethal on just a single mining base for the moment. Luckily for him, though, he's got a huge amount of resources banked up, and he's nearly maxed. And getting to that nearly max point with mech is always very solid. Planetary Fortress desperately trying to get repaired up, but gets sniped down exceptionally fast by these roaches. 10 spine crawlers getting made behind this, but a couple of Seeker missiles going to try and go down on the roaches. 1 will be able to detonate, 2 detonate, dealing a large amount of damage. The Vipers were taken out, unfortunately. A big wall of spine crawlers coming down, just slowly edging forward. 17 more Corruptors. Broodlords are going to be on the way, but AsTeR has managed to supply, or max out his supply there, which means ideally he needs to start sacrificing some of these roaches. Roaches late game are very supply ineffective. They don't deal much damage for how much they cost in terms of supply, and therefore you want to get them killed off in the most cost effective way as possible to free up supply for those really strong Broodlords and Swarm Host style type armies. But roaches coming back in once more, going to deal a significant amount of damage to this 3rd. The Orbital Command will fall, and the mech army significantly out of position. That means a lot of SCVs starting to take the fall, and they are unfortunately all going to get absolutely annihilated. Most of the roaches get out of there alive in what was a spectacularly good trade for AsTeR there, leaving Lethal looking in a bit of a tight spot. That was an important base for him, because now he's only got this Orbital Commander trying to come down, but as we see from these roaches, they're just darting back and forth, and with so many Corruptors here, lifting the Orbital Command wouldn't be a solution. Another Orbital goes down, the Mules go down, and unfortunately for Lethal, he's now left with only these 2 command centers, neither of which are at a place where there are many mineral patches. Mass Seeker missiles, though, are coming down. This is about to be some very big detonations, with great control by Lethal, pulling away the targeted Corruptors. He's now moving in, trying to get the air superiority, which he is gaining. The roaches on the ground getting annihilated, but most of the air Terran army is also getting taken out by these Corruptors. GG is called, and AsTeR is victorious in this best of 1 and will advance forward into the quarterfinals.